Alright, so in this video, I will talk about and share with you my entire process to write a long form sales copy. Right, so a lot of you have been asking me about my process and how exactly do I write a long form sales copy. So if you're unaware of what is a long form sales copy, you know what, let me just open this and show you an example. Now, if you see here, this is a long form sales copy, right? It's really long. I'm sure you may have possibly seen this on a website when you were looking at buying information products. And the long copy that you see is nothing but the sales copy, right? So today I'll show you what exactly do I do to write a sales copy? What's the process like? And you know what? It takes me about 27 days to write a long form sales copy. That's a really long time. So without further ado, let's break down the entire process. All right? All right. So the first thing that I do is research. So let me just highlight this. So that's the first step. Before I even begin writing the copy, I spend a lot of time doing the research, knowing about the industry, studying the existing control. Now, if you're not familiar what a control is, in the copywriting world, a control is an existing sales page that's generated the highest conversion, right? From time and again, we change the sales page to see if it can beat the old conversions, and the one that beats the old conversions becomes the existing control. So control is the highest converting sales page or sales copy, right? So I study all the past controls and the existing control. I read about the industry, the niche for a week, and I'll dig into the existing ad campaigns, the email sequences, the direct mail campaigns, anything I can get my hands on, the competitors, what are they writing on their website, how are they promoting similar products and services, blah blah blah. And if it's a scientific uh, product, for example, a weight loss pill or something that's got to do with a workout program where science is involved, I'll open up the new scientific uh, research and try and find out if there's a new, finding in the world, in the scientific world, which could be used in the sales page or which could be, referred to or implied to in the sales page, which makes the sales copy and the product more authentic, right? So this process takes me about a week. I kind of do a PhD in a week on that particular product or niche or industry. Really important if you want to come up with a copy that's going to convert, because once you do a lot of research and read a lot of data, sorry, I have a bad throat, you will be able to come up with more evidence in your copy that's more believable and makes your copy and your product more authentic, because you'll be able to draw on a lot of proof and literature from the niche. All right, so that's step number one. So that this takes about, let's say, roughly 7 odd days. All right, so let me just write here 7 days so it's easier for you to understand. Then, once I'm done with reading, I go to step number two, which is I write the headline. That's step number two. Let me highlight this. So I write the headline next, and not just one headline. I write about 40 to 50 headlines. Yes, that's the number of headlines you want to write, 40 to 50 headlines. Now, some of you may think that's crazy, 40, 50 headlines. But if you want to be a good copywriter, if you want to really get your copy to convert, if your sales page to work, then you need to do the hard work. So write about 40 to 50 headlines and then write another 10 headlines using the old promos and swipe file, right? So what exactly is a swipe file? Swipe file is a collection of all the old high converting ad copies and sales copies for a similar product or a similar service, right? So you look at those headlines which worked in the past, which were used in the past, and then you try and come up with a headline which is based on or modeled after headlines that were used in the past, right? So this way you come up with about 40, 50 your own headlines and then about 10 odd headlines based on and modeled from the old swipe files. So In all, it's about 60 headlines, and then you know what? You go and sleep over it for a couple of days, right? Don't come back because your mind will be overwhelmed, will be confused at this point, so you can't really come up with more creative stuff. So go back, rest for a couple of days, and sleep over it, and come back and then finalize one. So this process takes about 4 to 5 days. Let's just say 4 days, right? Alright, so now that you have your headline finalized, we go to the next step, which is writing the subhead or the lead. So that's the next step, which is writing the subhead and the lead. So if you see here, now these are the subheads, right? The bullet points. And the first 200 odd words, like these paragraphs here, and possibly, up till this point, this is what I would call a lead. So a lead is basically about first 200 words after your headline, and anything below the headline like this would be termed as a subhead, right? So the fastest, easiest, blah blah blah, guaranteed is a subhead, and I would also classify these bullet points into subheads. It's about 2 days where you write the subhead and the bullet points. The next thing that you do is write the full sales letter based on the AIDA formula. I made a full video on the AIDA formula, and if you haven't watched it, please watch it. It's on this channel on YouTube. It's really important, that formula. So I write the entire sales copy on the AIDA or the other templates in copywriting. So the next thing that you do when I say you write the AIDA formula, write based on the AIDA formula, is you write the whole thing, right, from dear to all the way down. You go on writing, 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 writing. So you write the whole thing from start to end. So from the main body of the sales copy till the end. You just keep writing. Don't stop, just keep writing. Right? So when you write here, you want to remember you don't want to stop for edits, for corrections, for grammatical errors. You just want to go with the flow, right? That's it, right? But based on the structure, either the AIDA formula or the other copywriting templates, which you can learn in my copywriting course, the online copywriting course. It's an 11-week course. So if you want to learn that, be sure to join the course and you learn the different structures. But you can use any of the template at this point. So the next thing you do is write down the entire sales copy, right? So that's one. And then on the next day, just sleep over it, right? Don't go back to it, and then the third day you go back and do the corrections and make those tweaks and blah blah blah. So this process would take about roughly 3 days, right? So you just write from start to end, go writing blah 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 blah, dum, 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 and no corrections, go with the flow, and then sleep over it, come back the next day, then make the corrections. All right, so that's the third step. Step number 4 is when you use the CUB process. So we are here now, which is on step number 4, which is where you use the CUB process. So CUB process is confusing, undesirable, and boring. That's what CUB stands for. So you read through the entire sales copy and you remove all the parts that you feel are confusing you and all the parts that you feel are undesirable or not interesting, and then you remove all the parts which are boring, right? So you read through the entire sales copy right from your headline till the end of the copy, and you apply the CUB process. Really important. It's a revolutionary, game-changing process that I learned in copywriting. It's a must before you launch any campaign, right? So this takes about 1 day, and what this would do is basically tighten and make your sales copy more interesting. It's like, you write a script for a movie and you have the script ready. You sleep over it for a couple of days, come back, apply the CUB process, and remove all the boring stuff from the script, right? The undesirable songs, the extended dialogues, or the scenes that you don't think really add up, and everything else, right? The unwanted fight sequences. You remove all of that so that your script becomes tighter and much more engaging. All right, so it takes about a day. Once you do that, you move to the next step, which is step number 5, which is where you compare and match the structure for emotions and reactions of the top 3 copies. Now, this is a very detailed process, and I will talk about this in detail in another video, but a really important step. So basically what you do is once you write your entire sales copy, for example, like this one. Next thing you want to do is match and compare this sales copy for emotion and structure. So I would take the best three sales copies that have worked in the past, and then I would compare this. Hey, so first the pre-head, right? So I would compare the pre-head and see what emotion is my pre-head generating compared to the pre-heads used in the three top selling sales pages, or top sales copies of the past. Then I would compare the headline for emotion and structure with the top three sales copies of the past, and so on and so forth. Every single sentence, every single paragraph, every single emotion needs to be, on an equivalent basis, needs to be very, very similar to the things that have worked in the past. So that's what this means. And I'll talk about this in detail, and this process is completely mind blowing. You'll love the process, and I'll do another video on this. And we have detailed videos on this in the online course, which are in the 10th week. It's a revolutionary process. Again, I know I've said that multiple times, but if you follow just this step, your sales copy becomes so much better and so much higher converting. All right, so that's step number 5. You make the changes based on the matching and comparing structure. Next thing you do is move to the step number 6, which is where you send the sales copy that you worked on and edited and made changes to 3 or 4 external sources. So these could be people who could be, potential customers or people in your team, and you ask them to read through your copy and apply the same CUB process. So what you would want them to do is go through the entire sales copy and mark out all the areas that they find confusing, they find undesirable, and they find boring. So this will help you, come up with and remove and make changes to areas that are confusing, boring, or undesirable, because a lot of times we may understand things because we've read about it, but the other person reading it may not really find meaning in it, or may find it boring or not desirable. So you get first-hand feedback, and this helps you make your sales copy much more tighter. So this process takes about 3 days, and then you move on to the next step, which is step number 7. In this step, what you do is rework your sales copy based on the feedback that you received from these externals, or your colleagues or your potential customers. You take their feedback into account and you make the changes appropriately, so that your sales copy becomes much more refined and much more tighter. And then you take you go to step number 8, which is when, after you made these changes, you go through it one final time and you make all the final changes that you want to make in the sales copy, right? This is your final proofread. You proofread for errors, grammatical errors, syntax errors, structural errors, data errors, or any other changes that you want to make. At this step, your goal is not to add or increase. Of course, you could add maybe a certain element that you missed out that you think is really desirable, but the goal here is not to make a lot of additions, but to fine tune things and verify the data on factual, scientific, and all the other bases, right? So once you do that, you go to the 9th step, which is where you create the split test variants. So if you're not familiar with the word split test, it means you create a similar version or another copy of the existing copy, but with one aspect changed, right? So now you have 2 sales copies which are exactly similar, but with only one aspect changed. And it could be, you just change the headline, or you change the pre-head, or you change the picture. Whatever change you make, you come up with different variations. So you basically want to have 5 different variations of the exact sales copy, right? So the 5 variations are completely similar to each other with one thing changed in each, right? So for example, here I would first split test copy would be, with a changed headline. I would possibly want to use a number, and something like amazing lost secrets of master hypnotist that lets you instantly hypnotize someone into anything, anytime, in flat 27 days. for flat 17 days or flat 9 hours, whatever, right? I'm just throwing out some number there. So I could test that out, and I could possibly test, a different color here, or a different subhead, or a different pre-head, or if I had a picture here, I would test a different picture. So, everything else would remain the same, absolutely same, but just one thing changed in each version, right? I could test a different price point. So that's what is meant by coming up with different variants of the, you know, sales copy, right? Creating different split test variants of the copy so that you could test out which one converts the best. And then the last thing you do is launch your sales copy. So all in all, it's a 27-day process. And if you follow the process, I am sure you'll come up with a sales copy, ad copy, email copy, or no, obviously you don't need so much time for an email copy or an ad copy, but for a sales copy, I highly suggest that you follow the process, the 27-day process. And if you are writing an email copy, ad copy, I am sure you could, do away with a lot of these steps, and but most importantly, you could, still incorporate the cup process, the external feedbacks, the split test variants, and a lot of this is also applicable to, writing the other copies, the landing page copy, the email copy, and the advertising copy, and even creating video sales letters. So I hope this was of help to you. I hope I answered your question, and of course, I'll do another video where I go in detail in the match and compare structure for copywriting. Well, on that note, I look forward to talking to you soon. Have a great one.